Sexual jokes in the workplace. Perhaps you laugh nervously and play along. Maybe you wince or leave the room. Perhaps you have protested and been subjected to backlash. Sexual jokes are not merely inappropriate in the workplace, they can constitute sexual harassment. Sexual jokes are not appropriate in the workplace. There's nothing wrong with your sense of humor if you are offended by sexual jokes. They can be graphic and shocking. They can be demeaning and reinforce negative stereotypes. They can make you feel self-conscious or defensive. They can also be a gateway to unwelcome sexual advances or other forms of sexual harassment. The bottom line is that you, as a manager, should not allow sexualized jokes or obscene language in the workplace if a reasonable person would be offended or intimidated. Sexual jokes that may be considered harassment can include graphic descriptions of sex acts, jokes containing sexual language and profanity, sexual innuendo aimed at you, sex jokes told loudly for all to hear, sexual jokes or cartoons emailed to your work computer. An issue that can arise in these cases is that the victims have forwarded jokes that were sent to them or engaged in banter in the workplace because they were afraid they had to try to fit in. The defense may also argue that other co-workers were not offended by the same jokes. Sexual harassment is not just about a manager or person in a position of power who demands sexual favors in exchange for an employment benefit. It is also about a sexually charged work environment that makes it difficult for you to do your job. Hostile work environments come in many forms. Some behaviors may be more subtle, but that doesn't keep them from violating your rights. Here are some examples. Dirty jokes and lewd language. Sexually explicit emails, pictures or pornography. Sexual content posted on walls and computer screens. Leering, suggestive looks. Sexual comments or lewd behavior. Inappropriate touching, unwelcome physical proximity. Denied promotions because of your sex or sexual orientation. Deny the reduced pay raises. Unwelcome phone calls, emails and text messages. Managers play a key role in stopping inappropriate jokes before they spiral out of control. If a manager knows that their workplace is having issues with jokes, it is his or her responsibility to take appropriate actions. This could be as simple as pulling aside the individual employee and explaining that his or her jokes are making co-workers uncomfortable or could be interpreted differently from the original intention. What happens when a manager becomes friendly with their employee? The jokes tend to go too far, and the manager laughs at these jokes instead of handling them appropriately. An employee who laughs at sex jokes in the workplace is the same employee who may later sue for sexual harassment. Many employers, managers and supervisors believe that participating in this type of behavior is harmless if everyone involved is also laughing along. The employer's defense: Mrs. Smith laughed at the incidents she complained of in her complaint. Plaintiff has included with her response the statement of a co-worker who expressed that she always thought the pranks went way too far, but Mrs. Smith just went along with it, saying that was okay, stating that I think that may have been her way of coping with the pranks. Construing the record evidence in the light most favorable to plaintiff, the court finds that there is a genuine question of material fact as to whether the alleged harassment occurred, and if so, whether it was unwelcome. Managers and supervisors should not tolerate conduct in the workplace that would make a bishop blush, even if it draws a laugh, because you may be the one shedding tears in the end. Sometimes a co-worker or supervisor is trying to be funny or does not realize that the behavior is offensive. However, nonverbal gestures may constitute sexual harassment if the behavior is sexual in nature and makes you uncomfortable, even if the gestures are not specifically aimed at you. Examples of sexual gestures that may cross the line into harassment and a hostile work environment. Hip thrusts and other sexually suggestive actions. Hand gestures that simulate sex acts. Obscene gestures with the lips or tongue. Simulating groping or touching. Use of the middle finger in a threatening or sexual way. Body language used to corner, trap or threaten. Leering, ogling and suggestive facial expressions. Obscene gestures may be part of a pattern of offensive behavior, or they may be used to silently harass someone without witnesses. It is important to document every instance of such behavior and to report it to the company. Is this really a big deal? Considering the consequences for reported harassment as most organizations, this is a big deal. Claims of sexual harassment in an organization can cost the organization financially and turn into lawsuits. Most organizations will fire employees involved in acts of sexual harassment. Therefore, it is important to understand when too much joking is too risky. Do you have a joker in your workplace that teeters on the line of sexual harassment? What do you think is the best solution? A manager or supervisor that actively participates in the jokes by laughing loses their authority to push responsible behaviors onto their employees. This type of behavior is not directly considered sexual harassment, but there are still consequences if a claim is made regarding a situation a manager or supervisor took part in. Termination, removal for cause/demoted, suspension, written reprimand/written warning.